Hey, all. Dr. Jared here, coming here to part 3 of our summer book club. Hopefully, as you're watching this, you're already well past chapter 6, which is where we're starting. But either way, just appreciate you taking time to grow yourself, reflect, improve, and kicking into chapter 6. They're really talking about core chiropractic, and it actually starts with Max Living. So, as you may know, Chiropractic First of Rockford chooses to be part of a larger organization called Max Living. It's an organization that's been around for over 25 years with a specific intention of a variety of, let's say, taglines or things. But the one that resonates the most with me is the goal of Max Living is to improve or change the way people view and manage their health. Because, as you're all aware, the average American is not overly healthy. There's plenty of health issues. In fact, as we've said many times, or as you likely already know, I mean, America finishes dead last for all first world countries for the majority of health metrics, with the exception of success rates with emergency medicine. And so, if we're going to live in that system, if we're going to live in this amazing country, if there's a part of it that's maybe not ideal or philosophically or fundamentally not working, maybe we need to change our viewpoint. And that would be something that I would encourage you to think about, which is where you stand on that. But Chiropractic First is specifically is our office here, which so many of you that are watching this are members of, or maybe even have been members of. But what we really try and focus on is giving people resources to be the answer for anything in their health, with the exception of emergencies and surgery. So trying to either provide services ourselves or provide resources so that you can really live your best, empower your family, give your body the absolute every opportunity to heal from the inside out, get to the root cause of problems. And so I'll tell you, when we start talking about chiropractic, one of the things that's probably unique from if you're a client here, or even if you're considering becoming one, is that what we do that's unique is we do something called non-surgical spinal correction. We take, for the majority of people, x-rays looking at the structure, because the structure of your spine leads to the function of your body. Your brain, your spinal cord surrounds and protects your brainstem, your spinal cord, and all these individual nerves. If you've been here over any period of time, or maybe from somewhere else, that your spine has to be straight from the front, from the side. You want to have ideally 45-degree curves. Most experts agree that there's an acceptable range of somewhere between 35 and 50 degrees, and then you want to have level hips. Now, there's a variety of conditions, accidents, traumas, genetic factors, things like scoliosis, or again, old injuries like car accidents or sports injuries, that may no longer allow you to be in that perfect position. But ultimately, if you're not addressing the function on a regular basis, or the structure on a regular basis, you could be losing function whether you feel it or not. And as most of you watching this know, while many people go to the chiropractor when they hurt, only about 10% of your nerves feel pain. And at the time of this last baby come in 10, 12 weeks ago, and she was not gaining weight. She was in the single digits for percentile for weight. There were concerns at the doctor. They wanted to change the formulation. They wanted mom to stop breastfeeding. They wanted to give acid reflux medicine, which, as you probably know, acid reflux medication might stop the throwing up, but it also frequently or the side effect is, because it changes the acid level of the stomach, the baby would not absorb nutrients, not absorb certain things as well. And it can affect growth. It can affect brain development. I mean, there's all sorts of side effects. But looking at it from allopathic, from an outside in, if a baby's throwing up, we need to give it something to stop the throw up. But unfortunately, it never really looks at the function or the structure. And so mom brought her child in, and we looked at her spine, we looked at the structure, and one of the spots with babies with car seats and all the different things that we put them in, where they're somewhat restrictive, which is great for safety and great for protection. It sometimes creates a misalignment or a subluxation where they get stuck. And if it causes nerve compromise, and in this case, it appears to, where the nerves to the stomach were not functioning properly. And so no amount of medication in the world is going to change the function of nerves being impinged from the outside. And so the short version of this story is we started to adjust baby. She started to respond immediately with less throwing up, better digestion. Mom was able to stop the acid reflux medicine. And just a few days ago, when she was in, she told me she was just back to the doctor and she had grown from single digit percentile to 45th percentile. And I can tell you, I have multiple other examples just in 2025 of that occurring simply by adjusting a child and letting their body function normally and heal itself. And so this is really what we're doing, is we're looking at the structure. The spine has, in an adult, 24 independent movable bones that need to be in the proper position for ideal function. And, think about this. The overwhelming majority of people do not question preventative maintenance in certain areas of their life. I don't know anybody who buys a new car and never takes it to the dealership. In fact, sometimes when the dealer finds checks, when they do oil changes or services or whatever, sometimes they find problems that the owner of the car didn't even know they were there. Very few people question assessing their teeth, brushing their teeth. If somebody gets diagnosed with high blood pressure or diabetes or a variety of other conditions, very few people question consuming a medication if the disease symptoms are there or if the blood work is showing it. And you think about that. When does that medicine fix it? In most cases, it manages it. The goal is to keep it from getting worse. And that concept, when you think about your spine, why wouldn't your spine fall into the exact same category? If you played high school football, if you've been in car accidents, if you sit every day and you're just stuck, or you spend 40 hours a week at a desk, plus you might sit and watch a football game at night or whatever, your body tends to adapt to the position it's put in. And so why wouldn't you maintain it? And I think many of you do. Obviously, many of you believe this, but it just seems so simple. It's like, if you don't address it, you lose it. And one last example, thinking about fitness, not that every single person watching this is perfectly fit, but most, if not all people at one time in their life were fit. They were very fit probably. And you think about it, it's like, well, we know that if you become fit, it doesn't mean if you stop exercising that you somehow stay fit. Your body's going to adapt to the amount of strain or stress that's put on it. And so, when we look at this from a structural standpoint, whether or not you feel good is important. Of course, everybody wants to feel good. Everybody wants to be healthy. But if you're not continually addressing the structure of your spine, you likely are going the wrong way, whether you're 10 years old or whether you're 100 years old. It's something that for best health needs to and should be done on a regular basis. And later in this chapter, one of the things that it talks about, and I'll do two of these, is that, if you don't address it, sometimes it just goes. And so when you start talking about things like spinal surgeries, depending on the studies and depending on the type of surgery, for example, when somebody has, let's call it a lesser of the spinal surgeries, discectomies or laminectomies, where they cut just part of the vertebrae off to create space and trim out the disc from a bulge or a herniation, there's anywhere from a 10 to 40% failure rate. So those surgeries don't work or don't last for very long, 10 to 40% of the time. And if you have to go in for one back surgery, who in the heck wants to go in for multiple? And as you probably know, the more you have, the lower the success rate is. When they talk about spinal fusions, there's a variety of studies, but the one that's probably made me the most concerned is depending on the age of the person that has a spinal fusion, where they actually screw the metal in. On average, they'll have between 3 and 5 over their lifetime if they don't address it. And to my knowledge, there's not a single study done that medically where they follow up if the person is, let's say, adjusted after they heal, 3 or 6 months later from a fusion, if they get adjusted for 3 to 6 months or once a week or twice a month after that, ongoing, how much longer, how much more preventative it is. Yet we have, I would say, well over 100 people who have gone years, and now at this point, some of them have been coming to see us for more than a decade without that next surgery because they've chosen to maintain their spine. So think about structurally, where are you at? What do you need? What would make your life better and be more preventative and proactive? Have a very blessed